his name is...
It's John Bunday. Hello, it is John Bunday, and I have here Volume 3 of The Sandman, and I have to keep holding it a certain way because otherwise you get the glare, because this is, once more, a library book. So the plastic cover keeps reflecting the screen, which is a bit of a pain in the ass while I was trying to make the thumbnail image for this video. But, right, yeah, so if you've seen my two previous videos on this, so The Sandman is considered like one of the greatest comic books of all time, made by Neil Gaiman, and this is the 30th anniversary release. I've been working through them. My library actually seems to be quite good at keeping these in, as in like sometimes they don't have the one I actually need to read next, but like they have a bunch of like the later ones, so it's good to know that when I get to them, they'll be there. So, Volume 3, also called Dream Country. So, where the first two volumes, they had, say, like complete arcs, so that once you finished that volume, that was the end of that particular story. So, but reading through this, and in like Neil's notes, or forewords, or that kind of stuff, he had been, while making the other two arcs, he'd been coming up with ideas for stories he wanted to tell, but they didn't really fit into an arc as such. So for this volume, he wanted to do 4 issues that actually covered like just a self-contained story, which didn't necessarily have to be about the Sandman himself, but would feature in some way. So that gets us the first one called, I have read it, but also I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly. Calliope? Who is one of the 9 muses, and apparently was the muse that inspired Homer. So, but it's about an author who has writer's block and needs a way to overcome it somehow. The second story, which is A Dream of 1,000 Cats. I'll be honest, like, after I finished reading, I read that one right before bed, and I just could not stop thinking about it because of like some of the bits that happen in it, or the wording, not necessarily the plot, but the language that was used and the way things were described. Anyway, and this whole story is told from the points of views of cats, and yeah, so it's a very fascinating read, and this is very showing. Let me start again. This is showing Neil's Sandman in the whole is really showing his creativity, but the kind of like stories he's capable of telling, like subject matter that you wouldn't necessarily think of. The idea of like the fact that cats may collectively come together and have discussions and things like. Anyway, the third story is A Midsummer Night's Dream, and there's literally features William Shakespeare giving the first performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream. I don't want to really say much more about that. And then the last story, what was it called? The last story doesn't actually even feature Sandman, but does feature his sister, Death. And quickly find the Facade, that was it. And it features Element Girl. I'm assuming that's a character that already existed in DC, but it's about a woman who can pretty much create any element she wants, but as a result her body is unrecognizable from how she looked before, so she's become like a recluse and is starved for like human contact. It's again a very fascinating story. So it's, even though these may not I hate to use the term, but they're kind of like filler stories, they're not. They're definitely worth reading. But I guess if you were to skip this volume, then I assume it doesn't really have like a big impact. Maybe except for one bit from Midsummer Night's Dream. I think there might be a bit in that might prefer down the line. But the art, see if I can try and get some good examples from each of the stories. So, but yeah, I think, bear in mind, this is like 90s art, so it's different techniques than what might be used nowadays. But I think the art is still fantastic. I mean, in some ways, I kind of prefer like older like art styles compared to like more modern, where it's obvious that it was done on a computer. So like, there's no telltale signs that this was inked or painted or anything like that, which is a bit of a shame. It's kind of like a lost art form. So, and oh yeah, so facade. Let's see what. So that is her. That's what she looks like now. So yeah. If my previous videos on Sandman haven't convinced you to go read it, I don't think necessarily this one will, but it's just, I guess, also kind of a vlog for me as well to track what I've been reading. But yeah, I'm so happy I started reading this series, and I think you should do too. So till next time.